It's another episode of the Next Fix podcast. We've got my new friend, Allie. When I say my new friend, we've been talking for a few seconds here, but, you know, we're both the kind of people that shoot from the hip, if you will. And she is doing that shooting from Australia, right? And so this is going to be a good time. She might be a little sleep deprived, but I'm a little bit under the weather. So together, we're gonna find the energy to pull this thing off. So, Allie, first of all, I want to tell you that I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Thank you for being here. Well, you know, virtually. And also, just give us like the high level, just the high level Allie, like the 30,000 foot view. Like, who are you these days, right? Just on the surface.
Ooh, well, thank you for having me on, Ryan. Gee, I never thought that I'd become a sobriety advocate. I had the messages, don't trust anyone that doesn't drink. And I, did that for 35 years or more. My drinking career was my longest relationship I ever had was with alcohol. And so, yeah, from there to now, it's just like my world. I've got a second chance. So living life, loving life, and couldn't be prouder or happier.
Well, and also, what was that? What is that?
It's a nice view up here.
Yeah.
Without being a smug, sober person. But honestly, it's like, yeah.
Well, I love hearing that Aussie humor. I miss it. And I was telling Allie before we hit record that I lived with an Aussie and a Kiwi at the same time. And boy, it's a rambunctious, especially when they're drinking. So I know the joy. There's a lot of happiness that Australians extract from drinking booze, but it's not always happy, right? So that's what we're here to talk about. So, so I gave you a little shot at like the surface level, Allie, but now I want to know when the train came up the tracks for you. Like, what did rock bottom look like for you when you said, "Hey, I got to do something," or I'm in serious shit. So I want to know that moment.
You want to know the nitty gritty. And when you were talking about you lived with a Kiwi and an Aussie, and I was thinking, is this a joke? American, the Kiwi and a Aussie walk into a bar.
We did many times.
I did that a shitload of times.
Right.
So, I was a bar fly, as they call it. Pool, I was a real ladette. My rock bottoms weren't. See, this is the thing. I never really had any consequences, and I was never one of those drinkers that was just like, you get one Allie and then you get a different side of me. Because I was such a people pleaser as a youngest of 7. Yeah. So I could read the room. I could, basically read the room and just be friends with everyone. So
Sure.
I wasn't the sort of barfly that would be a real bad drunk or a nasty drunk. And that actually was the fucking problem, because I was funny. I was the party girl. I was the pool playing demon. I was a ladette. Like, I could drink men.
Wait, hold on a second. What is ladette? You said it twice. I don't know.
Tomboy. I wanted, yeah. I could pick up with the boys. So I do have a twin brother. And so, and a next older brother. For me, they were my friends and my, so in school, I wasn't good looking. I was skinny, like I was scrawny. So then, boys didn't look at me. But how I could get in with boys was to be like a boy and chat and play footy and, then started drinking. And that's how I got into drinking, really, was to fit in and to.
Well, let me ask you. Well, with your siblings, that's a big family. I guess, is booze, like, is it kind of an issue, or how does it look like for the family?
Well, no, because like Dad was a quiet achiever. He was the drinker that Mum told me that they didn't start drinking until they were 29 years old.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And I'm like, why did you start? But so for me, it was for her. So Mum has, very bad depression and anxiety. So she would use alcohol in that way to cope and numb. And then Dad, on the other hand, total avoidant, total immature. Both my parents are immature, but Dad used to sit out the back with we'd call them King Browns, the big bottles of beer,
Yeah.
and roll his cigarettes and read the paper. I thought, well, there's 9 people in the house running amok, and there's Dad sitting out the back having a freaking beer and a fag or a cigarette, right? And I'm like, well, he's got it sewn up. So when I became that age, I was drinking with Dad to connect. So but the two never, it wasn't like Dad and Mum fought because they were drunk. It wasn't. We used it to celebrate. We used it, it wasn't
Right.
it was actually like, I couldn't wait to drink because, it was fun. It looked adult. I couldn't wait to be an adult and drink.
So you connected with your father, and would, in your opinion, like, and anybody that's got an opinion about it, it's like, everybody's different. And
Yeah.
I personally, I don't really judge anybody's journey or their own relationship with alcohol or their fathers, right? However, I want to know your opinion. Like, did you think that it was healthy? Like, I'm not assuming that the alcohol being a part of that makes it a bad thing, even though I don't think it's the greatest idea, but was it a good thing for you and your father to bond over the alcohol?
Well, I think look, hindsight, all of this stuff is on the other side of alcohol, right? Is you start to think about, why did I drink? Who was I drinking for? How did I start drinking, right? And in that hindsight, I was a chronic asthmatic, right? So my first addiction was cigarettes.
Hmm.
And I would be
Say that
sitting there.
again, and I'm so sorry that my Aussie ears aren't so keen. You're
Yeah.
dropping lingo on me, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. So you're a chronic what? What was it? A chronic
Asthmatic.
asthmatic. Okay, I
Yep.
got it.
So for a kid that was in and out of hospital, massive abandonment issues, what did I do? I bloody smoked. But I started smoking because Dad smoked. And then I started drinking and look, my dad didn't say, here, Ali, have a beer. It wasn't like that. It was older. When I was of age, that's when we connected over alcohol. But in my subconscious, I wanted to connect with my dad. So I started smoking because my dad did. I started drinking beer because my dad did. And that's how we bonded. So yeah, eventually, as I said, I wasn't a teenager. He did buy a tavern, a pub, when I was a teenager. So that's sort of where I started to smoke. And then, at Christmas time, we'd make these awful drinks and be like, but back in those days, in the 80s, you could smoke in cars, you could smoke on an airplane, I used to buy my parents cigarettes.
Right.
So,
right.
For a kid to start smoking, it was just the norm. And then the drinking, again, I was going into nightclubs at 16 years old. I did not look 16, mate. I literally looked 14 on a good day. I had no boobs. I was skinny, had acne. There was nothing sexy about me. And I still walked into a nightclub and it was like, what do you want, love? And I'm like, I'll just have a beer, please.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because it brought me back to the first beer I had in a restaurant. And it was my boss. I was working at this restaurant, and I was the busboy. I had pimples, and he was like, I'm going to take you to go get a beer. And I'm like, what? And I just got done mopping, and I'm sitting there, and they're like, what do you want? I'm like, and she brings me a beer, and she's looking at my boss like, really, man? And then but nobody cared. It was just different. And I don't, and by the way, and just to kind of shed some light, I don't think that those interactions did that to me, right?
No.
Meaning that's not what really turned me into a mess, right? I know that there's probably data that says that if you do that, it leads to alcoholism and things. However, the reasons why I became a mess is not because of that guy, right? So, but I want to know why you became a mess.
Well, that's right, because so my friends in high school, they didn't turn into messes like me. I believe, for me anyway, it was because of I was soothing core wounds. I was numbing out the feeling of I didn't feel worthy. I had shit self-esteem. I had low self-worth. So alcohol gave me courage, and it gave me the fitting in, same with the smoking, Oh, do you want to have a cigarette? And I'm thinking, no, but yeah. So the people pleasing, the good girl, so for me that morphed into, so even in my family, my mum used to call me, oh, Ali, the wild child. And, I left home at 16. I wasn't ready for it. I was literally running away from myself. But I held on to alcohol because that gave me what I thought was the courage. And it works until it doesn't. So it gave me that courage. It gave me the confidence to chat men up. I mean, I lost my virginity like most people. I was completely blackout drunk.
Yeah.
And most people are. I mean, let's face it. Your first time is generally, we're not sober, put it that way. It was very few people I know. But see, that just continued on. So then I started working and I got the credit. I got the recognition and I got the, the point. And really it worked. I mean, 80% of I never had hangovers, of course, in our 20s, far out. We're invincible, right?
Right.
There was no consequences. I it was kicking goals.
Well, so but when you said you got the credit, what were you referencing?
Well, the credit was I got the credit of, gee, Ali, she can come back tomorrow because she's awesome. She can, party like there's no tomorrow. She can drink. She can play pool. She's awesome. She's easy on the eye, whatever.
So like the street credit, like the street cred.
Street credit, yeah.
Right.
That was my identity was party girl Ali, the wild one. I used to actually joke and call myself Alcoholic Ali, which was AA.
Right. Ironically.
All of that stuff, but deep down inside, I was fucking terrified. And then I was just masking and I didn't realize that I had anxiety, but I was just numbing. I was using alcohol, like social awkwardness. I mean, you go have a few shots or drink a bottle of champagne before I went anywhere just to calm that nervous system down. I mean, I was living in fight or flight from my upbringing. It was chaotic. It was uncertain. It was boom or bust. There was lots going on in our little world. But so that's why I took it to the next level because it worked. It helped. It made me cope. Right. It made me numb. It celebrated. Like that was the messaging. Our culture, it's everywhere. Our messaging, right, in the 80s so drinking and smoking, that's the norm, rite of passage. I mean, in Australia, it's 18 years old, right? My biggest fear when I was growing up was AIDS and heroin. Right? They were the big ticket items of do not do that. One hit of heroin and you're done, which is bloody true. I will say, and I've never had it. It worked. They didn't have that same messaging for alcohol and cigarettes.
Right.
So
you feel like that's changed? Has it changed over there? I feel like it's changing here
a little bit.
Like people are starting to realize the upside is not. It's not that great, right?
And I didn't know that. So the messaging with cigarettes it's the number one carcinogen. Well, bloody alcohol is. I didn't know that until I gave it away.
Yeah.
Alcohol's a very much the same type of carcinogen as cigarettes, which again, because it's so taxed, I mean, Australia, it's very expensive to drink. So back in my day, again, it was like I just loved that I was brought up in those eras because we were just free range and it's, it was just another world. However, now people nowadays, my daughter who's 21, they preload. So they go to the houses because it's so bloody expensive. A pint of beer in Australia is like $17. Like, what? So, I mean, that used to be a carton of beer, I think, but.
Right.
Yeah, so it has changed a bit.
So you made the comment that it didn't you didn't have any real consequences is what you said, right? You said you didn't however, I mean, something brought you to this decision. And I want to know what it is. Like, what was it that you were like, hey, if I don't do something, this is getting tough around here, like what made you think that you had to change?
So I did lose my license 3 times for DUI. Again, that was a consequence, but again, it wasn't, it was just a blip. Again, I had credit. It was like, well, like
Right.
literally, it just didn't make a squid of difference. So it was just 1,000 little things that, so I had a long-term relationship when I was young, and that broke up, and I really took a dark turn and just absolutely went hell for leather on the alcohol and marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that I, wanted, it was just one of those, your first love, and he broke my heart basically. And I remember I was driving and I was drunk and I saw a tree and I was like, oh, I just want it to end. And I didn't, obviously. And then and I just went into this probably 3 years of absolute debauchery. Like I just hated myself. I hated everyone. I hated him. So I went pretty dark and deep and just basically went run amok. And
3 years, you just.
yeah, but that was sort of in my late 20s. So again, I never had hangovers. I was glad I just turned into a bit of a, slept around, and I'm just so grateful that I wasn't murdered, napped, or, ended up on a porn show. I don't know, but I think because of the gift of my gab, like I probably just luckily chose the right guys. I don't know.
Right.
Being a young woman, it's scary enough out there without just being a mess. So I did that, and then kind of like I did fall off a trampoline and fucking whacked my head of beauty. And I remember waking up like, ugh, and I said to my sister at the time, I think I'm an alcoholic. And I literally,
Wow.
I said that when I was 19 years old, and the legal age is 18. So that was quite
So it was living in there that you knew.
Was living in there for sure. But
Wow.
again, I just didn't have that friendships to even role models to think, hey, Ellie, you don't need to do this. Come over here and we'll look after you or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then I met my husband, now my ex-husband, but I met him, I was 31 and he was 23. So I thought, get it, boy.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So now he's your ex-husband now, but so
Yeah,
was
I did
that a
18
party?
years. 18 years. It was my intuition, which I overrode because I didn't trust myself. I overrode it. I shouldn't have married him. I thought to myself, I can change him. So we were both big drinkers, right? And that's how we connected. We drank. I mean, we partied. Like I loved alcohol because we partied. It wasn't just all doom and gloom sitting in your home, watching TV, playing with your cat. Like, we had geographicals, we lived a big life. We had a boat, we had 4-wheel drive, lived in France, lived in England. On paper, we invested properties. He was a carpenter. Like, mate, we were living the dream. We had a still, so we were making moonshine.
Interesting.
For alcoholics, that is the wrong hobby.
Yeah, I would say
that was the wrong hobby. Yeah, to make moonshine. It was bloody yummy, but it wasn't the right thing. So I used to always get on to him about his drinking because he was passive aggressive, very depressed. Like it was a struggle. And I kept the marriage going because being a Catholic girl, you only get married once. I can change him. We had financial commitments. I thought I couldn't do this alone. But yeah, through that marriage, it was pretty awful. We had a daughter. She was a honeymoon baby. And then I had 3 miscarriages, and they were all dealt with alcohol and shoved under the carpet. So it was just this compounding misery that led me to 19. I said, mate, I can't do this anymore. I mean, he ended up basically just living on the couch because he was so drunk he couldn't even make it to bed. And I just got tired. But I just thought, it's all him. He needs to give away the drinking. He needs to change. He needs to. But then when you have one set of hands pointing to you, you get 3 back. And I thought, So anyway, we mutually separated. But honestly, Ryan, he turned into an absolute prick. It was really awful. My worst fears came to light, and it was the hardest, in 2 years. And I used alcohol. My friend was there to soothe, to numb, to party, to parent. It just went fucking ballistic.
So were you drinking all day? I mean, was it like?
Look, I held down a job. This is why I think we keep drinking, because I'm high functioning. I held down a job. I was parenting. I was managing, these rental properties. I was, doing my bit. I'd look in the mirror and of course, menopause, perimenopause. Far out, mate. But then I think the hangovers were becoming really bad. So basically my night out, if I was to go to a girlfriend's house, I would take a liter of vodka.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would pretty much, I wasn't a gulper. So I was always the last one up. Right. And then I'd smoke marijuana as well. That seemed to make me party more. And then if everybody went to bed, I'd piss off to the nightclub.
Wow.
Because I'm bored. I'm like, I just want to go dance. So then COVID came.
Isn't that crazy how much energy you can have? You're not really putting nutrients into your body. And it's like, how on earth was my body still kind of doing that? It's unreal, right?
If we went out, we were still married, because, the school mummy wine culture, it was a real thing. Of course, preschool to pretty much high school, we had a group of friends that fucking drank as much as we went camping. As I said, boating, Friday nights, Tuesday nights, whatever night, it'd just be like, do you want to come over? We'll just have one wine, a bottle of wine, and be like, yeah. Driving home, 10 o'clock, going, fuck, I hope I don't get pulled over on a school night, wake up in the morning, go, get your kid to school, but really feeling tired, but you just override it, because then, you get home in the afternoon, first thing you do, crack a drink, hair of the dog. That loop, that cycle, that's what keeps you going. Even though you're tired and you really don't want to drink, if somebody said, hey, Ali, come around for a drink, as much as I would say no, I had a really easy rubber arm and I'd be over there. Quicker than you could say, I've changed my mind. That, so COVID also, that was a license to drink. So I turned 50 in COVID, and my friends all gave me, it's a funny thing when you're a drinker, everyone gives you alcohol. So you've got a problem when every birthday you get fucking alcohol. I mean, work it out, join the dots. So they gave me, I had heaps of bottles of really nice, expensive alcohol. And by the way, it doesn't matter how much it costs, it still gives you a stinking hangover. Mm. But my daughter was 14, 15, and she was starting to nick my booze. Right. So I started to drop the ball with her, which is sort of a long way of answering your question of how I got to the end of my drinking career was, the partying, the breakdown of the marriage. It started to accumulate to becoming very lonely, because some of those friends in the marriage, that dissolved. So I didn't have those same core friendships so I basically just used to sit at home and drink. And then I'd ring people on the phone, and I was playing the drums. So that would be my thing. I'd come home, have a cone, pour a drink, and then play the drums, and then get drunker and drunker and think I was playing better and better. And then I'd go to bed and I'd be like, oh yeah, that was a good night. I'd go to work on a Monday and people are, oh, how was your weekend? Thinking, no, I was pretty, average. But I'd be like, I went out here, or I did this, and I'm playing the drums. It was all bullshit. Yeah. Getting the ball. So my daughter would catch an Uber on a Friday night, because I would be like, nah, it's an Uber. This is my night. Pissed and stoned. So there's no way I could go drive her. But she was terrified. Young, pretty little girl in a freaking Uber.
Right.
And she was starting to realize, her dad was still a raving alcoholic. So she really had nowhere to turn. And I kind of just knew deep down that there was more to life, because through our marriage, I always used to say to my friends and my partner, let's do dry July. Let's do sober October. And I would be fucking ridiculed. What the frick do you want to do that for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really?
Nobody was like, why? Alcohol was just so ingrained in everything we did.
Are you the only one that's like made the decision?
Yeah. And, they're all watching from the sidelines. So it's quite fascinating. And again, honestly, Ryan, if Ali can do it, bloody anyone, because like I pinch myself that I don't drink, full stop. I don't. So to get to that point, I was feeling lonely, sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, going through these random short-term relationships, finding love in all the wrong places. And I didn't get to know myself. I didn't know myself. So I kind of rang a girlfriend and I said, mate, I'm sick of this loop. I'd go really good for a couple of weeks without drinking. And then, I don't know, on a random Tuesday, I drive through the bottle shop, had a bloody bottle of shampoo, bam, I'm drinking. And I said, I'm just sick of this loop. And she put me on to my girlfriend I went to school with. It is a deep hypnosis. She does hypnotherapy.
Interesting.
And she's also a counsellor. And I went to school with her and I was like, all right. So I gave her a call and said, Basil, can't get out of this loop. It's like she knew me. She knows that she knew that I was a pisshead and a party girl. So she was probably just waiting for the time that I realised, enough was enough. Got to that point, because we can only do it for ourselves. Can't do it for anyone else. I couldn't do it for my kid. My husband couldn't do it for the marriage. I couldn't do it for our marriage. Anyway, I rang her. She said, come and see me. And we just did a deep dive for a whole day of talking about the whys on why I was drinking. It stems from childhood. And again, if you have I feel that, the creatives and the people that are sensitive and a bit,
Well, there's an energy. A lot of people, a lot of very smart, creative, and amazing people. Right. There's that, but what I find is there's a lot of times there's this energy, and I've read something recently that was about like the call to adventure, and so the type of person who can go to the moon or go into war or be a soldier or these high achievers, and they kind of hit this pinnacle, and then once it's done, what else is there? And this is why I say this all the time, is that being an addict is an absolute superpower. Being an addict is an absolute superpower, but you've got to aim it. You've got to aim it at something productive. And if you don't, and if you have that propensity for partying, well, then that's where that energy will get put and pointed to. And when that happens, you end up like us. And so you've got to have something to aim at, because let's face it, moderation is not on the table.
No.
That is not a thing. And so then therefore, if you have an aim and you could really go at it with all of your energy, you can substitute that healthy energy or that healthy, target with that same energy. And then now you've supplanted something that's great for something that's selfish. And so I think I feel like, I'm on the same page as you with that.
Yeah, very well. Yeah. Nailed it, Ryan.
And so this hypnosis, you said it was like just one day, like you went in there and
So I so I've had hypnotherapy maybe twice in the past but funnily enough, for cigarettes. Never, because drinking was never a problem. It was all about everything else but drinking. So I went to do hypnotherapy a couple of times for smoking. And I just sort of must have known that I didn't really want to give cigarettes away. So I had it, and then, I know one time I literally got back in the car and fucking had a cigarette.
Right.
It was just, that was a waste of time. And then I sort of, I guess, thought maybe it wouldn't work because the past had confirmed that hypnotherapy hadn't worked. So, but I was just in that mindset of like, I'm done with this loop and feeling like shit, and my life is really, it's in black and white. So I've had enough. So I had a great chat to her, and we write questions to my higher conscious. So they're questions of, how do you not go back? How does Ali not drink again? What are the tools that Ali can do to make sure that she doesn't drink? Just things like that. It was 5 years ago, so it's a bit vague. Anyway, 2.5 hours I was under hypnosis. And it's a weird thing because, I don't know, you can hear yourself, and it's so funny. You can hear yourself. And I remember one of the things that Basil said to me was, how does Ali not, go back to drinking? And my subconscious was like, well, she just doesn't hang out with those people that drink, or something like that. It was so funny. And it's true because, everyone I knew drank, but that pool had got a lot less. So it was a good time as well. So I left there. That was the 4th of June, 2021. And I thought, wow, I didn't feel like drinking until I had a colleague at work's wedding on the 19th of June. So I had no thoughts of drinking at all right up until that point. And I got my hair and makeup done. I was single, so it was a wedding that was out of town. It was in the middle of winter. Fucking driving there going, oh my God. Wow, I look fabulous. Yep. Keep driving. And then get there, shaking, anxious, because, it's a bloody event. And what do they give you at a wedding? A glass of champagne. So I went, I'll take that, holding on to it. I was shaking, drinking it. This tastes like shit. Oh, no, keep drinking it. Well, that continued on all night. I was the last one up. Wake up in the morning full of that, how am I going to drive home? I was so paranoid about going over the limit. Anyway, I did. White-knuckled it, driving home with that sick feeling and feeling like really sick, wanting to spew. And I got home and I did a video to myself still with my makeup on, still looking half decent. Did a video of myself, and I literally looked myself in the eye and said, Ali, you'll never, ever, ever feel like this again. I don't want to ever feel like this again. That feeling we know of, I just don't want to ever feel like that again. And I haven't felt like that again because I've never drank again.
Well, congratulations. Yeah. Just the synopsis was like the one kind of hypnosis, but then there's the one slip, and then that video of accountability. And then let me ask you this: how many times have you watched that video? Like, have you? Like,
I don't even know where the video is.
I mean, you never like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that was a part of it. No.
No, because I've swapped phones. But, the thing is, Ryan, it's that feeling. It's that feeling that I said to myself, I don't ever want to feel like this again. The shame, the regret, the fear of getting pulled over, that feeling of being sick because you got a stinking hangover.
Yeah.
Just that feeling that I've felt for 35 years, anxiety, just that fucking shit. So I just said, I don't ever want to feel like that ever again. And then the work begins, though, because I had a little bit of a scarcity mindset about this. Not scarcity mindset, but I actually deep down inside thought, because I was hypnotized, I cheated. I cheated because I don't have cravings, or it really had to unpack it, because when people say, Ellie, how do you get through the first week or month or year? I mean, I did have to do the work. I have done a course. You still have to sit in your shit. I had to get to know myself, because when I started drinking at 14, I didn't know who the hell Ali was. I had all these false labels of who I thought I was. So that's what it means by doing the work and not being a dry drunk.
Right.
So therefore, I have to talk to myself and say, no, people go to rehab. Does that take away their own experience of cheating the system because they have to? No, you did that. That was a mechanism for you to start the journey of why was the reasons why you drank the way you did.
Mm-hmm.
And, reparenting me because I left home at 16. I pretty much was the youngest of 7. There wasn't much in the tank for my parents to guide or hug or love. So, you have to do it for yourself.
So when you say work,
yeah,
I mean, a lot of times, especially
yeah,
it's the only place I know is that in the States, like people say the work that's usually steps. It's usually steps. Is that what did you work the steps?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, no, I never went to AA, but definitely so when I quit, I think it was about 6 months. So what I would do to not, relapse was so if I was to do some gardening, that's usually when I would drink after doing the gardening. Whew. So I do the gardening. Yeah. The reward, that reward thing is also what kept me stuck, that reward. So yeah, I would do the gardening in the morning. Anyway, I started listening to podcasts and then just one day I love the way the universe works and I was listening to a local radio station and I heard this lady talk about sobriety. And of course, again, this is 2021. I mean, there was still a lot around. But there's this lady called Danny Carr. She has a podcast called How I Quit Alcohol. So I straight away got home, Googled that and sent her a message. And I did her 3-month course, which she doesn't do those anymore. And that really put the nail in the coffin. And that is doing the work, which is meditating, learning how to meditate, because it's, living in fight or flight for all of my life. Alcohol is a great component, to slow me down, to numb me down. So to learn how to breathe properly, to meditate, journaling. I mean, I've been told that over the years, I've had Reiki or, I've always been trying to, search for someone to heal me. Or
sure. Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to drink. And I remember like journaling the few times that I had. And it's so funny. Like I'd always say, I don't want to drink. I don't want to drink fucking alcohol or I don't want to smoke. So it was always there, but to actually unpack that and we'd have a Zoom call every week. So there's the accountability. And from there, that's what I mean by doing the work. So
sure.
Yeah. And now it's a good practice for, diarising, journaling. I've set up, like a Instagram because again, if I haven't done the coaching style, I haven't sort of branched out into that way, but
I mean, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's this overwhelming desire to help. I mean, I'm thinking we're on the same page. Like you want to, like, where you were and it sucked. It's horrible. And so there's nobody better in this world than you to help who you were even 2 days ago. Right. And that's why this community is so important. And people are, it's because there's nobody else out there. Like if you go and talk to a doctor and they don't know what it's like, they don't know what. Like you look at it, you're like, just shut up, man. Like you're giving me a hard time. And yes, I have been drinking. And yes, it is 8 in the morning. And you don't know what that feels like. So it's like, it doesn't work like that. And so that's why we've got to stick together. And
that's lived experience, right? Lived experience. And again, it is that service because we are that type of person to help and to be, just that creative, sensitive type that now that we've overcome that, we just want to say to people, like, you don't have to live like that anymore. There is, life on the other side is so much better. But again, you've just got to get to that point. But, when I was listening to podcasts, I just loved it because everyone's story, there's always something in somebody's story that rings a bell because we are drinkers. So there's obviously, again, I wasn't at 8 o'clock in the morning fucking hiding my bottles, but again, I still used to, have an all-nighter and then I'd go back it up and drink more. So, you know.
So, well, now you had mentioned the radio just now, and I know that that's kind of a thing for you. Like you said, you wanted to do that. So, what do we have to look forward to from Allie? Like, how are you gonna package it up? Like, what is it gonna look like? Because I mean, the radio, I don't know. I think it's still a thing.
Radio.
I haven't listened to the radio in a long time.
Well, look, I am wanting to get onto the community radio here I live in a small town.
Yeah.
But they more so, I've met a radio host just through my line of work, and he now listens to my podcast. So he gave me a meet and greet from the station manager, but these guys it's more of a music community radio thing. So I'm like, okay, but I do host my own podcast.
Yeah.
So I guess part of that is really exciting because as a young kid, I couldn't use my voice.
Right. Nobody would listen to you unless you're blitzed and hanging out.
That's the funny one.
And that's what your show's called. Your show's called Laughs and Lager, or what is it?
Laughs Without Lager.
Laughs Without Lager. Right. And so, well, that's the point, right? And so,
but I thought alcohol was making me funny, but actually, Ryan, in primary school, I used to get in trouble because I was Allie's distracting, Allie's this. I used to be told off all the time because I was the heckler.
Yeah. Right. Well, is it on your show? Are you like heckling people, or like tell everybody how they can come hang out with you and do this? Is it live? I mean, tell us about it.
No, you can hit me up we've got an Instagram page called Laughs Without Lager. There's also my own page, which is I Don't Drink Full Stop. So I'd love to have any of your listeners come on. I basically do what I did to you and slide into people's DMs. My co-host and I used to just have ourselves on the show. But this year I thought, nah, bugger it. Let's bring in some, cool people to hear. It's funny actually because it's funny because it's called Laughs Without Lager. I'm thinking of maybe rebranding it because it's like, because it's such a kind of a serious topic that we talk about, there's not many laughs you can, like, I can't take the piss out of your story pretty much. So I'm there to listen. Unless Meg and we try and sort of have a bit of a banter, but I don't know, it's a bit like the deer in the headlights. I'm trying to be professional, but then I just think, so my Instagram is more me. It's more like, I just don't care.
Sure.
I don't.
Hey, but I'm like that too. Like I laugh at things I probably shouldn't laugh at because I maybe it's a coping mechanism. Maybe it's wrong, but that's what I do. I laugh about all kinds of stuff. Even when I tell my story, like my mom sent me to jail she said I tried to cut her head off. And I say it so lightly, and then like people kind of look at me like, "Hey, man," and like, "Hey, I get it, right? Like I know I should be in therapy every day. I get it. I understand. And I know that I shouldn't say it so lightly, but I honestly don't know how else to behave. So I'm sorry, but I'm with you. Like sometimes I do get a little like, am I taking somebody else's story too lightly? And I don't want to do that. However, I'm inviting people to come along with me. And like, laugh and let's keep it moving, right? Like
exactly, right.
That's
Definitely.
Well, listen, I'm going to put everything in black and white so everybody can check it out. But yeah, I'm going to check it out. Laughs Without Lager, right? And so it's going to be you and your co-hosts. They're sober too, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, Megs. She's actually, so she turned her sobriety into loving. She does courses. So she's have you heard of Annie Grace?
I think so. Yeah.
She's a This Naked Mind coach. Right. She's also just doing a narcissist abuse. Like she's all over it. That to me, that's just not my. My brain doesn't work. I'm just like, I just want to talk.
Right.
I don't want to go too deep, man. So she's doing that, and then so.
Well, hey,
that's why she wasn't on this on here. I think we're going to have you, or I'm going to have you on our podcast.
I'm in.
But it'll just be me and you, Ryan. So I want to take the piss out of your story. Now I've got the green light.
That's something that everybody can look forward to because it's going to happen. And so,
Yeah.
but anyways, Allie, you're an absolute blessing. I
Thanks, mate.
appreciate you having the courage to make that decision, make your
Thank
life
you.
better, and then also help other people's lives too. So that's an amazing thing. And everybody, this has
Thank
been
you.
another episode of The Next Fix.